First of all, welcome everybody, and there's many of you, so I'm thrilled that so many of you came here. And first of all, let me apologize for not doing the talk in German. My son is actually sitting downstairs hammering down his homework, and he's studying German, so he's going through all the naamvallen and vocabulary. He's struggling, and I'm upstairs saying, well, maybe English is good too. No, I think you had Rudy Karel, you had Linda de Mols. Enough Dutch people have butchered your language. I thought maybe just do it in English. There we are. Battleplan for your first 30 days as a product owner. And as you mentioned, yeah, I have a thing with martial arts and with samurai. I've been doing judo, jiu-jitsu for a very long time, and I won't say I'm really skilled in that, and that would not be correct, but I really love doing it. And I noticed that a lot of things that I do in my martial art practice are things I bring back to my work as a product manager or product owner. And we also had an interesting talk about that. Is it a product manager or a product owner? I think product ownership describes how you interact with the team and with the environment in an agile way and with the Scrum framework. Product management is actually the job. So you can be a product manager and not do Scrum. It's really, I don't think you can be a product owner and not do product management. But that's more or less my take on it. I'm a professional Scrum trainer, just like some of you on the call. So I do trainings for scrum.org, mainly in the product domain, so product ownership, PSPO1. I'm a steward for PSPO-A. So I came, if you have a problem with this idea of the stances of the product owner, I am to blame. I'm sorry for that. I trained a huge number of great teachers from Germany, so don't seek out me, go seek out those people that can train you in your own language and in your own natural habitat. But that's enough about training. I am also an actual product owner. I'm the real thing. So, and that's all the fault of Ron Eringa, who taught me about the PAL-E, the leadership training, and I started teaching people about leadership and about purpose. And at some point I thought, what is my purpose? And I discovered that I was not in the right place. So since June of this year, I am in a company building products to help people in Africa get access to healthcare. And I feel that I'm really in the right spot, helping people with my skills in product management, and at the same time creating a product that really matters. But it also gave me a new problem, because I came from 8 years of consultancy, teaching the greenfield scenario of Scrum, and I ended up in a brownfield scenario. So I had to put in a picture with a bike. But PSPO1 training is like greenfield. It's like create your business case, create your product vision. Everything is shiny. You can build a backlog and there's stakeholders and oh, the world is beautiful. And then you end up in a real life situation. And actually the grass is long beyond the due date, and there's a product, there's tech dev, there's customers, there's promises that have been made, there's a vision, there's a business plan, and it's not in the best shape. And you're there to make sense of it. So I ask myself this question: what do product owners do when you're new to the product, but it's not like this greenfield PSPO1 situation? And I have a couple of questions for you, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this. Help me to think a bit about this statement. Are all product owners created equal? What if you join an organization and you know, of course, the Scrum mantra, one product owner, one product backlog, and that's really great. But sometimes you join an organization, and for example, Liberty Global is an industry giant in the streaming services. So if you're watching television, it goes through a product of Liberty Global, and they've organized themselves around components. Or maybe you're in a Spotify-inspired company. Like everybody have started copying Spotify and by now figured out that copying doesn't work. But we've ended up with all these companies that now have feature teams and feature owner product thingies. Or maybe you're organized around the customer journey. Like Coolblue is a Dutch competitor of Amazon, and they've created product ownership per part of the journey. So you want to inspire people, you want to inform people, you want to sell them something, you want to ship them something. It's part of the journey, and they have their own owners in there. Or maybe it's something like a consumer electronic company like TomTom. I was a product manager at TomTom. This was my product. I'm still proud of it. It's the 2535. It's a decade old and it's broken, but it's my product. I can do with it what I want as long as I can explain it. I can make it blue if I have a very good reason to make it blue. I was responsible for the US, different story. I'll tell you about that some other time. But the question is, for in the chat, how would it affect you as a product owner in terms of skills, maybe in terms of entrepreneurship, coordination? What are things that you would look out for? Maybe you can share some thoughts in the chat and we can respond to that.
What's the current situation? Do we try to reach a greater market? Do we want to go with that product in a completely other direction? Is it about to make the product just bigger? I would say it depends on that.
Yeah, those are things that are definitely impacted with depending on how your organization is structured. But what about entrepreneurship? Oh yeah, creating the product vision must be challenging. Yeah, for sure. And it helps. So if you're in TomTom, it's much easier. If you own a SKU, so what we did is we divided the product by SKU. I did high-end US, my colleague did low-end Europe, then mid-tier Asia, I don't know. But you had your own product, so you could have a product vision. As a feature, it's much more difficult.
We can scale the product. Again, we're scaling the product internally. We have many ownerships for a product. We will have all those problems with the scaling itself. That means I must have an interaction and coordination between you and me. And between Ola and Christian, and then you have another opinion than me, and then we have a product owner committee, and then we have a long decision latency, and then we will lose the market, and then we can close the company.
Yeah, well, let's not hope I end up there. When I applied for the job, they had 6 product owners. We're now down to 3. So I hope the trend continues, but I also hope it ends at 1 and not 0. Otherwise, I might have a job. But yeah, okay, so interesting. Let's some other questions. Imagine, you know this movie, you all know it. You have the same age, and you even younger. It's like Anakin, you are the chosen one to bring. The product owner is the chosen one to bring balance to the force, but it can also go sideways. So what are things for you to look out for? If you're a product owner and imagine you want to sabotage the organization, what would you do? What could you do? I know alone what my product needs. Yeah, of course. That's why you hired me. I also know how to build it, by the way. Move over. Yeah, focusing on the how. That sounds a what? Share ownership, like make everybody responsible, that nobody's responsible. They're not asking customers. But you're finding it far easier to come up with ideas for screwing things up than to organize yourself properly. Change direction. Oh yeah, sitting on decisions. Yeah, I'm not available today. I actually came to consult for a company, and they had a big countdown timer in the hallway. Next release 6 months from now, and it was counting down. I was like, all right. So those are the things that I did not do when I joined my new company. Say yes, that's also very good. That's a different book. We'll talk about that later. I created a plan. I created a strategy to do this, and as with all things that I do, I was inspired by Sun Tzu. And you know all Sun Tzu, of course, famous Chinese author. Maybe anybody remembers what he wrote. Martin is right. It's the art of war.
Is that Sun Tzu?
Yeah, so about 1,500 years ago. Kind of a big book. Yeah, I prefer Miyamoto Musashi, The 5 Rings, because that's a very thin book. I'm a lazy person. No, it's an old book, but he talks about what it takes to win on the battlefield. And he has this plan with 5 dimensions. And Since Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal, I just stole his idea and said, look, apparently there are a couple of factors that are really important to be successful. There's the commander, there's the will of the heavens, there's the discipline of the troops, and there's the lay of the land or the earth. And in the end, it's all about the moral cause of why you're fighting this battle. And actually, there's these gaps between the dimensions, they actually have a meaning too. So between the commander and the heavens, it's how well does the commander understand the direction of the gods or where he wants to go to, the vision, we would say. Or between heaven and the discipline of the truth, it translates into action. So what can we actually do it? The lay of the land and the discipline determines your positioning, how you set up your organization or your armies or whatever it is that you're trying to manage. And between the situation on the battlefield and the commander is the learning. So how fast can we actually learn? Because that helps us to adapt to that situation. Right? So I took that as a basis and tried to translate it into something less bloody, maybe a little bit more practical. So the questions that I asked myself were, are the people in this organization aligned? I knew that they were doing agile, they were doing Scrum, you have self-organizing teams. The worst thing that can happen is that you have a self-organizing team going to the left and the other self-organizing team going to the right, and everybody's really busy and the netto result is 0. And I had seen that so many times. So the first thing was, great self-organizing teams, cool. Do they know where they are going to? Are they aligned? Number 2, when is the product actually successful? What do you guys call a success? What does the process look like? Every company works differently, and the Scrum Guide is extremely thin, so everybody finds it necessary to add stuff on top of that. And some ideas are good, some ideas are very bad. So trying to figure out what is the minimum stuff that you need to put on top of that, but what are they actually doing today and why? And for the lay of the land, it feels like, what data do we have in the company? What do we actually know? What facts and figures are there? And of course, the moral cause translates into, why are we building this product? Since there are so many agile people in this presentation, I added one. How can we speed things up? How can we make it like a flywheel? How we polish stuff? So that's the thing that I added to it. See, improvement. Moving on. Let's talk about these 4 quadrants, and I'll guide you through them and give them some tips on how I did it. And feel free to share what you think might be useful. Has anybody seen this quadrant before, this diagram? This is so great. You have your cameras on so I can see nodding heads. This is, of course, nope. It's the stakeholder matrix. It comes from a book from Dr. Mike Clayton. It's called The Influence Agenda. And it's a very helpful framework to map out stakeholders, to think about where is a certain stakeholder positioned and who should we talk to and when do we talk to them. So does anybody have a suggestion on maybe some people that and in which quadrant you would put them? Let's see. This is some brain farts that I came up with. And I just talk to people in your organization, say, hey, if I want to talk to the board, what are some names of people that I should talk to? Legal, product managers or product marketers, product owners. How does the product organization look like? What does the engineering look like? Where's sales? Where's marketing? Where's operations? Where's support? And I then try to figure out, so how do we communicate with them? How do we actually do stakeholder management with them? Is something already in place? This is the typical PSPOA answer, like upper left quadrant, let's keep them informed. Yeah, but how do we keep them informed? This is your golden opportunity. This is the first time you join. This is where you get the ear of the CEO. Hey, look, CEO, this is really nice meeting you. I know you must be a busy guy, but I want to keep you up to date of what's happening in my area. What would work for you? Can we have a cup of coffee, like once a month, just to keep in check? And I'll tell you what I'm doing, you tell me what you're doing, and we can take it from there. These are things you can organize very early on. And that's probably the only opportunity you ever get. So that worked for me. Figure out people that you want to work with closely. What kind of events are there already? And make sure you talk to those people. Then we have the lower right quadrant, like let's keep them informed. In our organization, we do a demo. Don't tell Fad I told you that. We actually do a demo. That's okay. We also do a sprint review. That's just not with the same people. The demo is one-way traffic. We do a demo with people that we want to inform. We do a sprint review with people where we want feedback from, that we want to collaborate with. When I joined, that was the same meeting. That was one of the first things I had to flip around. So don't put everybody in the same room. So this kind of thing can help you. This is my notebook that I took with me on my first few weeks. At some point, I stopped putting people in the quadrants because people said, well, I'm not a context giver. I'm actually somebody you want to work with today. So putting people in boxes is helpful, but maybe don't make that information too transparent. So think about that. I want to give you some tips about what kind of people are in the boxes or I talk to and how did I interact with them. So let's talk about people. Well, whenever I talk to people, I put on my puppy eyes, so my big blue eyes. I go, oh, this is really interesting. I'm Chris, I'm new here, I know nothing. Could you please tell me, what is the company's mission? And I'm pleased to report they got this right. Like everybody knew the company's mission. And that was +1. Second question, what problem does my product solve? This is where it all went to hell. Like half of the board has a different idea about what the product should be doing than the other half. And I can explain that now because they're talking to different stakeholder groups. They're looking at different parts of the organization and the business model. But I need to be aware of that and I need to align that. Otherwise, my arguments are not going to fly when I talk to a particular stakeholder. I talked about things like, hey, what do you think our target persona is? Or what are actually tactical and strategic objectives that we're looking for? Oh yeah, and why? What does the market look like? What does segmentation look like? What does size look like? And this was the important one. When am I actually successful? Because I plan to stick around. So can you help me understand what do you think that defines my success? All right. So these are a cool kind of questions. Artifacts that you can create from that or hunt for are things like personas, jobs to be done. The customer journey is really helpful. SWOT is a kind of an old tool, but still very helpful. So what are the strengths of the company, the weaknesses, and you can use these templates or tools to facilitate those discussions. However, it's not really the answer that you're looking for. It's the conversation that matters. And the answers that you're really trying to look for is, what do they want? What is their business goal? What do they need from you? How can you help them to become successful? And this was not so easy. So this takes some time. This has also to do with trust, but being open and asking those questions. Hey, I actually asked that question, what keeps you awake at night? And that triggered a very meaningful discussion. All right. So that really helped me in those discussions. The goal of the product owner is, of course, to create value. I also say the goal of the product owner is to turn your users into fans, to make them, like so enthusiastic about your product that they start taking tattoos of them. This is a John Deere. There are actually users that get tattoos from you, that maybe not from your product, but these people exist. If you Google product love and you go to image search, you get these images. Don't scroll to page 2. You have been warned. People do crazy things with tattoos. But product love. So that's your mission. So how can you figure out what makes fans of your product? And I've come up with the seven samurai, of course. By the way, who knows that movie, The Seven Samurais? Yeah, this is where my age shined through. There's a manga version. Don't worry, I got you covered. Ask your kids about that. I actually struggled through the classic movie. It's like 3 hours, but if you put it at 120% speed, it's actually quite enjoyable. So the 7 samurai. So what are the 7 samurai you should talk to in your organization? Well, talk to your development team. Schedule a meeting with your development team, of course, but also with customer support, with sales, with product management, with end users. Talk to end users, but also talk to things like legal and finance. And there's always a 7th one, the one that I did not mention. So don't take this as a blueprint. Look at your organization, look at what you need, and try to figure out who to talk to. And let me give you some like battle cards or helpful pointers how you could do these discussions. By the way, if I'm talking too fast or too slow, or if you want to interrupt or add anything to it, please do. I realize that it's Friday, end of the day. I'm between beer and anyway, let's move on. So customer support. Talk to customer support, or better, spend time on customer support. I spent 2 days on customer support answering calls, and after that I crawled back to my desk. It is a cleansing experience. It's painful. Like, nobody calls and say, oh, I'm so happy with your product, this changed my life. No, it's all complaints, pain, awful. I remember for TomTom, there was a guy stuck with his caravan up in a mountain in Italy. And the TomTom just said, well, you can just turn around. He's like, no, I can't. Where am I supposed to go to? And remember this person, because 2 weeks from now, you're ordering the product backlog. You're in a refinement session, and you're looking at this bug, and you're looking at a feature that brings new value. And you remember this person and the poor man or woman in customer support that is answering the call. So talk to them. What are customer complaints? Why is that bad? Are there ways around it? Why do people buy the product? Those are really interesting questions. Of course, talk to your development team. And when you talk to your development team, if you're an engineer like me, talk about techie stuff, because they tend to like that, and it builds rapport and street credits. But I also talk about stuff like, what was the last thing that we added to the product? Why? If you test stuff, how do you, just push buttons? That's interesting. What kind of scenario goes through your mind? Why should people buy your products? These are questions that help you to evaluate how mature the team is, how much product management knowledge is in the team, how far on the growth ladder are you? Can you already give the teams problems? The team was looking at me and say, Chris, where are my user stories? So I'm never going to give you user stories. So I'm sorry, previous product owner did that. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to give you problems to solve. If you need a user story, write a user story. And they were quite shocked with that in the beginning, but they also realized that this is an opportunity for them to grow. And of course, I'm there to coach them and to help them and to facilitate that discussion. And I'll even help them write a proper user story. But the story is not the point. I want them to think about the customer. What is happening? Why is this happening? What is a problem? How can I solve it? They're the expert in solving stuff. I'm the expert in giving them problems, which makes the job fun. So I also talk to product managers, of course, and product owners, and we think of ourselves as superheroes, but yeah, in real life, our power is greatly exaggerated. But these were great questions. Hey guys, why do you think the product exists? Do we have a strategy? A strategy, Chris. Oh, okay, can you explain me what happens next year? Okay, and why? Okay, business model. What are 3 horizons? Well, go to the PSPOA. No, but basically, what is the maturity level of the product? Where are we going? Are we still entrant in the market? Are we at the end of the life cycle? What is actually happening there? And this helps you to figure out where your team is and your colleagues are, and if you can help them, and then maybe they can help you, and find that relationship on the strategy. And then there's, of course, our friends in sales. I'm not sure how it works in Germany, but I can imagine that if you want to buy a car and you go into a, let's say, a dealership and you're looking at a nice BMW and you, oh, interesting car, and there's a man or a woman, and they come up to you and say, oh, sir, it looks like you're interested in this car, so can I help you? What do we reply? Herumschauen, I think is what you're saying, huh? Yeah, why? This person knows more about cars than I do, and for sure knows more about this particular car because it's in their showroom. Somebody is always answering, it depends. Well, I'll get to you later on this presentation. So why don't we talk to sales?
Maybe because they know the customers of the market. They have direct contact to them. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think the right answer is somewhere in the chat. So Frank says the person wants to sell what is in the showroom, and they have a different objective. They just want to, but that's not the case. This person is in your company. You're on the same side now. And the biggest mistake I've ever made is not involving sales. So I created a beautiful product that I'm still very much in love with that got butchered in sales. They started selling something completely different. And I had to build what they sold, not what I designed, and for sure not what I was aiming for. Involve sales early. So talk to them and ask these questions. Hey, what are competitors? Why do you think that is a competitor? What is a customer? Why do you think that is a customer? What would make a customer buy the product? You may not get all the same answers, but you can also find allies in some, hey, I actually want to go in that market. This salesperson actually has experience in this market. Maybe I should team up with this person. Talk to them, even though we don't trust them. And leave your wallet at home. Anyway, what else do we have? We have the geeky girl in finance. So by now you realize that I am a yellow person in this term. So I like to be on stage. I like to talk, wave with my hands and be enthusiastic. And what I dislike automatically are rules, processes, procedures, numbers, figures, but I have to deal with them. They're part of the work. So I've learned, reach out to finance, to legal in an early stage. Talk to them. I ask questions like, hey, what does the product look like? What does your process look like? What does your budgeting process look like? How much money are we making with my product? How does that compare to the other products in the portfolio? What does the market look like? Customer acquisition costs. This already helped me by learning which people are the biggest customers. So when somebody comes up to you and say, oh, Chris, this customer really important. We need to build it immediately. And you can reply saying, interesting. I just talked to finance. They have a very different idea about the size of your customer. Maybe you can help me understand why this is so important and how it's going to grow the product, because currently it helps you to understand how the money flows and how important your product is in the whole portfolio of products. The process. This is the one time in your life that your agenda is empty. So the first thing you want to put in your agenda are the Scrum events. This is my Scrum trainer hat, of course, that I'm wearing. But sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retrospect, make sure you have them in your agenda, because they will keep recurring and other people will start hunting for your time. And if you've already booked it, well, it's already booked. So it's already in there. Refinement. Maybe we can play with it. Maybe it's an event. Maybe it's organized differently. Daily Scrum. I don't need to be there every day. I want to be there every now and then, but it's not my event. But there's more. There's more to the world than Scrum. Things like release schedules, board reviews, budgeting reviews, investors. You can talk to people and already ask, hey, what are kind of meetings that happen every quarter or every quarter, we first week of the quarter, we have this. Oh, okay, interesting. Let me write that down. So don't become a slave of your agenda. Right? So that's process. That's all very easy. Then you make a comprehensive plan, of course, right? I used to do this. I like make a comprehensive plan and have all the details in there, and I carried it in a binder, and everywhere I go, I would open the binder and say, oh, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. It only works if you can predict what's actually happening. And in many ways, that's like the kata in martial arts, like a pre-described set of motions that you can practice. But then something changes and it just unfolds differently. Yeah, so that was painful. I still recall the days that we were recording this, and the cameraman was like, oh yeah, let's do another shot, and I was like, no, I have too many bruises. For those of you who've been paying attention, the second time that Sven executed this move, he did something different. He finished in a different way. Yeah, this almost hurts as much as my job. You don't know half of it. He did something different. Maybe it was my mistake. Maybe I was in the wrong position, or he moved me slightly more off balance. But he changed the way he executed the technique, and I just responded to it because I trust him. He trusts me. We're used to each other. We can feel what the other person is doing, and if something changes, that is okay. We can adapt to that. So don't spend too much time on your plan, but spend time on the people around it to make sure that you can feel what they're doing and that they are okay with small changes in there. All right. Now, getting back to that other question. So the plan depends. And any of you who ever work with consultants, they always say, oh yeah, Chris, this is really interesting. How does, and you ask, how does this work? And the consultant tells you, it depends. It depends. The follow-up question for you to punish your next consultant is, on what does it depend? Right? And then you can see if the consultant is worth their money. So don't let them get away with it depends. So on what does it depend? Again, 4 dimensions, of course. These are 4 things I got. Some of you may recognize these. It depends on how quickly can we respond to the market. That's your agility kind of metric. And in martial arts, agility is super helpful. Doesn't tell you if you're going to win, but no agility means you're probably going to lose. What value is still there? And we're product owners, we're value maximizers. So is there still any value to be unlocked? And the other 2 are more supporting to that. So like, how healthy is the product? What is the state of the product? And how much value are we actually generating? So those were the 4 areas of my plan, and I started to research that. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of metrics are in that domain. And for value, I did things like looking at the customer journey. I am so happy that I have Noortje in my team. Noortje is my product analyst, and she's awesome. She gathers all the data. She makes tables and stuff. And every time I wonder, this looks like an interesting feature. Is anybody using that? She will give me an answer. So I know I'm really fortunate to have such a person. If you do not have that, well, we'll get to that. But things like personas, profiler competing, those are things that I was be looking for. For responsiveness, well, just do proper Scrum. And I'm sad to report to you that my team is not doing proper Scrum. And now I'm split between doing product ownership work and coaching my Scrum Master. Because I need her to help the team to grow to proper Scrum, because it's going to impede me in the long run. And I need to convince my management that we're going to spend time in moving towards proper Scrum, doing more continuous integration, far more automated testing, that those things are really important in the long run. The healthiness, I was looking at things like, are we using A/B testing? How much time are we spending on refactoring? What does a roadmap look like? And yeah, North Star is the new word for vision. So where are we heading? And we looked at strategy, impact mapping. What does the market look like? That's kind of the elements that I was looking for to build my plan. And to give you some idea of the metrics, like talk to finance, I was pleased to learn that we also evaluate the NPS of our employees to see if the people are happy. That's also an interesting metric. Cycle time is terrible. They should all do a PSK. Now, if once you've started reading up on Kanban and you learned about what these metrics can mean, then you start using them. And then you learn that it actually takes a painful long time to actually ship something. So having that metric there allows you to improve on it. Defect rate, feature usage, those are interesting things we looked at. And this is the interesting part for most product owners, how much value is still out there. So we talked to customers, discovered, like this is the satisfied, this would make them super happy, like no complaints. This is where we are today. So there's a gap. This gap tells you a little bit about the opportunity that's still there. And then you look at the market size, there are many people. This gives you some metric, albeit it's very subjective, but that really helped us to figure out, hey, there's an opportunity here. Let's move on because how are we doing in time?
Something about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, all right. Yeah, Newtonian growth is something I came up with. You can read in the product summary, buy the book. No, basically, it's the, you all learned this in physics. Like you have this formula for distance is the starting distance plus the initial velocity multiplied by time plus 1/2 times the acceleration plus time to the power of 2. Right? Second law of motion, Newton. All right. But basically, that's basic math. And you can use the same for growth, just looking at how fast is the product growing and then look at the rate of acceleration. Are we actually in this hyperbolic curve, or are we in a linear curve, or are we slowing down? That's basically what the Newtonian growth is all about. And in some markets, we were actually on a hyperbolic curve and we were not paying attention to that because the other markets were making more money, but the growth was actually declining. Now, you as product owners, where do you want to invest your money? Where the market is hyperbolic, like this in this hockey stick curve, or where it's in a declining curve? You want to invest in the hockey, but then you need to know where the hockey stick curve is. So measure and make it transparent. Yeah, it's all very easy. I had to put a picture in there from the Karate Kid, of course, of Mr. Miyagi. And you know Mr. Miyagi with rip on, rip off, like polish, polish, polish. The practice, and we talked about this in the beginning, the difficulty is discipline. And many of you may be in a situation that you are like, hey, Chris, this is all really nice, but I don't have that data. This is your opportunity because you listen to the talk before you talk to the people. Once you start talking to the people, ask for it. Like, hey, I'm interested in this data. Do we have this somewhere? Especially when you talk to finance, process-driven people, product analysts, data scientists, there's a lot of information that you can actually delegate. And I discovered when I was talking to the data science department that they know everything. Just nobody talks to them and asks the right questions. And if you put on your puppy eyes and say, oh, I'm Chris, I'm new here, I know nothing, please help me understand. Everybody is willing to help you. And they did an awesome job in enlightening me and what's happening in the world of my product. So if you can delegate. But I have one final question for you. Despite all that data, what is the only way that you can check if your product is really valuable? Ship, says Peter. Customer feedback, ask customers. Yeah.
The sales team is overworked. They cannot follow up on all the demands.
Yeah, it might also be that they're not asking enough money. Yeah. Yeah, sell, release. I think that the releasing part is good. The customer feedback part is better. So try to get feedback from customers. Talking to customers is scary, but it can be extremely rewarding. I joined a company. We're an insurance kind of company, and they had this idea of a particular product for a focus group, for a group of people, and they had all brilliant ideas. And said, why don't we talk to customers? We don't know. You're scheduled for the next trip to Kenya. You go talk to customers. Yeah, okay, well, I'll talk to customers. And I also brought my boss along and asked him, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so many interviews. Can you help me out? Can you do this one interview? And he sat down with a customer and he talked about this insurance product that they were building. And the customer said, look, I need this product now. My niece died because we could not get the funding for our medical bills. This product would have saved her. And he came out of that meeting like, Chris, we need to build this. We need to build it now. It was really helpful in terms of stakeholder management, but it was also based on data from real customers. And it cuts through all the red tape that we have in the organization, I can tell you that. Yeah. And Sergey is absolutely right. It's not valuable if people do not pay for it. That's a very good point. All right. Hey, that was everything for today. So 4 topics. And you have 4 weeks. So spend your time wisely. Talk to people, figure out what the stakeholders are. Your key question is, what makes you successful? Number 2, the product. Think back to the tattoos. What will turn users into fans? Process. Make sure the machine is going and it doesn't stop. And the plan is really not so much about your success, but the success of the product itself. So how does that balance out? That's it. Only 4 P's. Okay. Hey, if you want to buy the book, go buy the book. Get it on Amazon.com. I think Amazon.de also has it. Don't buy it on Amazon.nl. There's a smart entrepreneur in the Netherlands who buys my book in bulk and then sells it for twice the price on .nl. And for some reason, I can't see, Amazon and I can't agree on how to circumvent that. And on the other hand, I have to applaud him. It's a smart entrepreneur, but don't do that. Shop around. That's it. Don't want to talk too much about the book. My parting thought for you is van proberen ga je leren. Or aus dem Versuch lernt man. I think it means something like that. And this is a great wisdom that was taught to me by my daughter when I did something and I did it wrong. And then she said, wow, that's okay, Dad. Yeah, she's probably going to do that for the rest of her life. Oh, it's okay. You make mistakes. All right. That's it. That was my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's any other questions or things you want to talk about in general in life.
Thank you, Chris.